On the chart right, which numbers do we want to see? Go over to 2, 5, 5, 1, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 2, 1, 2. Yes, I saw 1, 2, 4, 5. So we'll do those. One you can do in Desmos. It might be better to do it in algebraically, but I will show that. Because they're so far apart, you have to zoom out and be careful with your counting. As you count down and to the right, it should go down 10 to the right 15, which would simplify to -2/3. You could find the equation of that line, and as long as it goes through both points, that should be your slope. So -2/3 was your slope for that one. So if you got that one, good job. 2, you had to plot the points first. Find your line of best fit. So your y1 tilde mx1 plus b. And then you had to find when x is 6. And look at where those two lines cross. 199.519. The closest answer would be D, 200. You don't really need Desmos if you know which one is your y-intercept, but let's say on the SOL you forget which one it is. If you graph it, you could see where it crosses the y-axis. You would just have to remember that's what you're looking for, not x-axis. But -1 was 3. 4 said something about writing an equation, so that should have been your light bulb to go off. Put in y equals mx plus b. It would ask you to add in sliders, add in all of them. It's perpendicular, so the slope has to be the negative reciprocal. So look at the original. The slope of this one is -1/5. So the new slope has to be a +5. So you would change that to 5 and then find where your y-intercept would help this cross. So then the equation should have been y equals 5x minus 7. Questions on that one? Five was an inequality one. So this should have been a dashed line. Y-intercept of 2, slope of 3/4, shaded below. This class, she always had issues with this class, so. Anyway, do we have questions on strike right? It's kind of distracting. On the SOL review, I'm going to show you the answers first, and then we'll go through the Desmos ones. So 7E, the answers were 82,325. SOL A8, if you want to write down this stuff, you can. It'll make more sense because that's the stuff we're going to learn about today. Again, if you want to write this stuff, you can. Otherwise, your answer is B for number 1. The second part of number 1, you had to use the equation given, use the numbers given, and solve. So that answer should have been about 2 days. I would write in all of this. Anyone still need this stuff from up here? Right. Number 2 was also B. And then 3, you had to create a directoration using 2 of the ordered pairs. The ones that would work are the first and the last. So I'm going to show what those look like on Desmos, and then later when we actually do it, can you hit new session? You'll be able to go back and refer back to this, and it should make more sense. Hit new session. Maybe. 808. Okay, so for 7E, you could have put in the function and then put in x equals -3, x equals 6, and found where they intersected, but you would have had to zoom out a lot. You could have also put in the function, made it a table, changed the x values to -3 and 6, and you would have also gotten those y values, since it was looking for a range and you had the domain values. Questions on that one? Because this was asking about something that's inversing, we'll talk about what that means and what that looks like. You're looking for something that looks like this. So the only one that did that was the purple one. And then part 2 of that, using that equation, you could look and see where does it cross the y-axis, and that's how I got that answer. Or the answers match. I actually did the work for it. Part 2. It's looking for which one is a line that goes through the origin. The ones that are adding would not be answers, but I think I said it was the black one, because this one would do weird things. And then 3, if you were to plot all of your ordered pairs, you're looking for the ones that would make a line, but also go through the middle, through the origin. And we said -10, -4, and 5, 2. So if I kind of look at this one, and I think one of these was already given, those make a line that goes through 0, 0. But we'll talk more about that in a bit. Or you had to find which of these represented a direct variation. So it had to be a line that went through the origin. The only 3 that did that were 1/5, -0.5, and 3. Everything else either wasn't a line or didn't go through the origin. 5, again, you have to find a line that goes directly to the origin. Same thing with 6. 7 is like the one we just did. Given the set of ordered pairs, select 3 that will create a direct variation. So you can do the math, break the math underneath if you want. You don't have to. But 3 that would work are 4, 16, 3, 12, and -2, -8. On the next page, it's using the same order pair, so I just copied and pasted. So if you want to rewrite them all, you can, but you don't have to. But part B is which ones will create an inverse, and it was -4, 3, -6, 2, and -1, 12. Eight was a similar one. Select 3 of these that'll create a direct 3.57, 4, 8, and 8, 16 were all ones that worked. Anyone still need this part? Nine, you had to plot 2 points that would make this a direct variation. It has to go through the origin, and then you can pick any other point. Don't draw all 4 points, you just need 2. 10 is the same way. It gave you a point, and it wanted you to plot 3 others. The origin is a good one, and then 2 more. And then, I don't know what happened with 11. There's tables here, but there's not a question. But there's a question for 12, so go on to 12. And then, I'm going to show this one in demo. So how I did 12 was, I put in each of these points in a table, and I put in the 2 equations given, because they just repeat. And when you do that, it's going to match one of the 2 equations, and you just have to see which equation doesn't match and which type of variation doesn't match. So D was your answer for that one. Then SOL A9, you should have been able to do that one, because that was all line of best fit, curve of best fit, which we talked about. So number 1, if you put these in, D was your answer. So put them into the table, find your line or curve of best fit. I'm not going to do this for every problem, but I am going to show you something about 1 and 2. 2, same thing, put in your ordered pairs. It tells you you're using line of best fit. B would be your answer. 3, it tells you you're using the quadratic curve of best fit. So put those in, use the curve, the quadratic progression. And then you need to find the y value when x is -4. So the y value was 2.33. Really quickly in demos. One, when you plot the points, it'll start curving, so that'll tell you it's not a line, and then you can match it from there. 2, when you plot the points and draw the line, when x equals 5, the point that it crosses isn't close to any of the answers really, but 11 point whatever it was is the closest. And then you can see where that intersects 4, 3. Right? And then we'll do the rest when we get back from lunch. Here are your answers for 4. So after you put in your ordered pairs, it says curve of best fit, so quadratic. And then you could put in when x is 8 and get 200. 5, you don't really need to know what the points are exactly in order to figure this out. It's a U shape, so it can't be linear. And it's facing upside down, so the A value has to be negative. So D was that answer. Anyone still need 4? For 6, put in the table. It says curve of best fit, so this would be your curve of best fit. You're trying to figure out what would your y value be when x is 13, so 1389. And the last one, because this was years, you had to remember to change the first year to 0. Every year after that, how many years has it been since? Since this one starts at a 2000, the years are going to match. The number in years is going to match. That's going to be line of best fit since it's dealing with years. And then when you look for when x is 14, D was your answer. So as you're finishing that up, I want to remind you that 2 weeks from today, literally 2 weeks in 2 Fridays, is your SOL at 7:40 in the morning in the library on the board. When we get closer to it, I'll explain some things you need, like your laptop, school laptop, and things like that, but we'll talk about that not today. Right? We do have a lot to go through. You have 2 packets on your desk. Find the one that says direct first. We're going to start with those. We have now finished the SOL standards packet, so you have that to go back to, use Desmos on, make sure you're good with putting that stuff in Desmos and know how to find those answers. Right? A direct variation is a specific relationship in which there's a constant ratio, and that ratio is y over x. Between all ordered pairs. The direct variation equation are written in the form y equals kx. You can use the direct variation equation format to find your k if you forget. I'm going to write that again on the side. To solve for k, we would divide both sides by x. Which is how we find our constant k. If you have your laptop open right now, go ahead and close it. Camera. Is it k? It's supposed to be, yes. Right. So one of the things you'll need to know is how to find k using that ratio, y over x. Right, so we'll do a couple of these examples. In order to find our constant k, it has to be the same for all the values, and it also, we'll come back to that. It has to be the same for all the values. So we're going to divide y and x for each of these and see if they're the same. You can start to do that, see if they are all the same. They end up all being the same, which would make that our constant. And then it wants us to write an equation using that. So we're going to use that same equation from before, just the variables y and x, and our constant k. So y equals 4x would be the equation. Are you writing this down as well? Questions on that so far? Then there's one case where it's a little different. So let's say we did 3 and did the same thing, divided y over x. What would negative 8 over negative 12 be? Say that one more time. Not 1/4, but it does end in a 4. 2/3, sorry. This is what I should have done. And then if you divide and simplify each of them, gives us 2/3. 0 over 0 does not. That's a special case. We'll come back to that. So if you're thinking all the constants have to be the same, but 0 over 0 is not 2/3, you would say it's not direct. However, and we kind of briefly talked about this when we were going through the SOL review, it has to go through 0, 0. So if you were thinking about on a graph, if I'm counting the slope in between these points, it would still be 2/3. So this is still direct. So then what would that equation be? Camera. So you can think about your k like your slope. It's just called something different. Okay, questions so far? So not only do you have to be able to find k, you also have to recognize is an equation or graph a direct variation or not. So if it looks like this format, y equals kx, it is a direct. If it doesn't, then it's not. So would 5 be direct? Yes. So since it is, what is your k value? 3. Is 6 direct? Yes. What would your k value be? Negative 4/5. Is 7 direct? No. That one does not have an x, so it can't be direct. 8 we would have to solve for, so get rid of the 2 by dividing. Is this direct? Yes. You can rewrite this as 5 over 2x. So what's our k value? Is 9 direct? No. Why not? And more specifically, if this is supposed to be like your slope, if this were in slope-intercept format, what would your b value be? So what would that be? 0. So it has to be 0, which makes sense. It has to go through the origin. So if it's not 0, it's not a direct. Right? 11, we would also have to solve. We'll skip around. Would this be a direct? Some no's. What if I rewrote this? So you have to remember that this can be rewritten like this, and it would be direct. 12, we'd have to solve. Subtract your x term. And divide everything by 2. Would this one be direct? No, because of that y-intercept, it's not 0. Really, any equation in this format that doesn't have a 0 is not going to be direct. Okay. Do we have any questions on how to determine from the equation? Go on to the next page. So you also have to be able to determine if it's direct by looking at the graph. So same rules kind of apply. The constant k has to be the same, or the slope has to be the same between all your points. Has to go through the origin. So is 14 direct? Yes. What would your k value be? 3/2. Would 15 be direct? No, it does not go through the origin. If you want to do 16 and 17, then you have that ability. We're going to go down to the other one. So you have to be able to find k, determine if it's direct or not from an equation from a graph, but you also have to find missing values. So we'll do a few of these. You'll be given a set of values. You can use that to find your k value. So go ahead and do that first. Divide -4 and 2. After you find your k value, write that as an equation. What would that equation be? Bless you. Camera. Correct. After you have your equation, you can look at the second order pair. You're given x, but you don't know y, so you can put this in for x and solve. What would y be? If you wanted to double check yourself, you could take the y value and x value that were given and divide them. If you get the same k value, you know you did that right. If you don't, something's wrong. Questions on that? We're going to do a few more on this page and then go on. So we found a y, let's find an x, so 19. Same process. Divide 16 and 4. So that 4 is your k value. What would that equation look like? Y equals 4x. Then you can put in your y value and solve for x. What is x? So again, if I double check this, 24 divided by 6 is 4. 22 through 25 are really the same problems, they just have more words. So if we were doing 22, you would still divide these first two. what would your equation be? Then you are looking for x, and you have y. Put the y value in, and solve for x. What would x be? Cos -5. The double checking is not necessary, but it is a good way to check yourself to make sure you're on the right track. And then let's do one where we have to find y, so 24. And divide. We're going to get fractions or decimals. What would that be? -5/2. So how would we write that equation? Y equals -5/2x. You don't know y, but you know x, so put that in and figure out what y is. What is y? 30, -30. Do we have any questions on the process on how we find the missing value? Go on to the next page. So, I know I have both. You only have this one. We'll talk about the next one here in a minute. Sometimes you'll be given applications, and it'll tell you whether it's direct or not. Sometimes it won't, and you'll have to figure out, is this direct or not? And a way to figure that out is you have to know that direct applications either go up together or go down together. So, like, the more time you spend studying, the better you do on the tests. The less time you spend studying, the worse you do on the tests. It either goes up together or down together. You could probably think of other examples. That was the only one I had in my head. So they either have to go up together or down together, and you'll be able to recognize that. So we'll do a few of these examples. In all of these word problems, as you start to read it, you might see words that say very directly, varies directly, directly proportional, something like that. If you don't see that words at all, it's going to give you all the numbers, and you have to decide if they go up together or down together. Whatever comes before those words, so the sales, that's going to be your y value every time. Whatever comes after, so the number of people, it's going to be your x every time. And then you have to look at what's given. So the 12,000 is going to be sales. 800 is going to be number of people, so x. You have to figure out how many people, so that's going to be x, if the sales are 15,000. The biggest thing with this is knowing what's x, what's y, not confusing the two, and knowing what you're solving for. Other nice thing about this is you solve this just like we were solving the other ones, the missing variables. So use the first two to find k. Divide those, tell me what you get. And because this is our constant k with a word problem, we can say this is compared to y over x, so dollars over people, or $15 per person, is how we would say that. Then we could write our equation, y equals 15x, and use the last number that we're given, so our y value, 15,000, and solve for x. What would our x be? And because these are word problems, we need labels, so 1,000, what are we looking for? The check yourself process is the same. I could divide 15,000 and 1,000 and I would get 15. Do we have any questions on how we set that up? Solved it, got the answer. Let's try another one. Ounces of medication vary directly with the weight of a patient. So ounces is your y, weight is x. So 120 is y or x. Requires 3/4 of an ounce of medication. Is that y or x? Y. How many ounces? So what are we looking for? X or y? Y. And then 200 pounds is again x. Same process. Find your k value. So since y is 3/4, use the decimal instead of the fraction, so you don't have a fraction within a fraction. So 0.75 over 120. You're going to get a weird decimal. That's fine. What is that decimal? So this would be ounces per pound. Earlier, someone divided incorrectly and we got 90. And you have to kind of think about, would 90 make sense? 90 ounces per pound, like think about how much you weigh. And if you took 90 ounces of medication for every pound you weigh, it'd be a lot. So think about, does it make sense or not? Because you may have done it wrong. Okay, so we have our k value, y equals 0.00625, x. We are looking for y, so put in 200 and figure out what that is. What? So we're comparing the weight went up, and so did the amount of ounces, so you can say that's correct. Which we knew that already. Any questions on how we set up, solved, or got this answer? We're going to do one more on this page, number 5. What is your x? What is your y? Sorry.
Say that one more time. Income is y, okay?
So that means number of hours is x. We have a y value. We have an x. What are we looking for? Which is the constant variation is what? Say that again. I'm sorry, you say that one more time. Which is what variable? Not y. The income over the amount of hours would be what? K. So we're looking for K. So pay attention to what it's asking for, because you may not need to do all the work that we've done in the past. So use the two numbers, divide them. What is your K value? $32. And this would be dollars per hour. Do you have any questions at all on how we find anything related to direct variation? Switch packets. Look at the inverse. What's nice about the inverse is that the process, a lot of the process is the same, but a little different at the same time. But inverse and direct are basically the opposite. So if in direct we had a constant ratio, this would be a constant product, where we're multiplying y and x between all the ordered pairs. The inverse variation equation is written in the form y equals k over x. And I could use that to find this product, so I'm going to rewrite it. How would I solve this for k? Multiply both sides by x, which is how we get xy equals k. So to find our k value, we're going to multiply and see if they're the same. So number one, multiply each of these. See if they're the same. What number do you get? 20. So your k value is 20. And we would write that y equals 20 over x. So you have to be able to keep the two straight, direct and inverse, and know what the equations are and how to find them. Let's do a table version. Multiply your x's and y's together. And this is negative 12, and this is negative 12, and this is negative 12. Is this one negative 12? So k equals negative 12. How would we write that equation? Y equals negative 12 over x. Right? You won't need to graph it, like be able to graph it, but you'll have to know what it looks like. So I'm going to show you how to graph one, and then you'll be able to see what it looks like. So in this example, it tells us our constant is 16. I mean, k equals 16. In order to get that, they would have had to multiply two things together to get 16. What are the factors of 16? Say that louder. 4 and 4 is the reason I'm putting it in the middle. 1 and 16. What else? 2 and 8. Because we're going to graph this, we can also do the opposites. So 8 and 2 and 16 and 1. So you're going to graph those points on the graph. Be careful, it's counting by 2s, not 1. and it's going to make this curve shape. And you're going to draw a curved line through the points and draw arrows at the end. But we only talked about the positive values, so negative times a negative could also be a positive. So we're going to take those same values, but make them all negative. And plot those points as well. It's going to make another curve. Draw that curved line through it and draw arrows. So as long as you know that an inverse function looks like this, that's all you really need. Questions on how we got that graph? Once you're finished graphing it, go on to the next page. The process and how to find the missing variable is really the same. We just have to use different rules. So in 7, I would still find my k value by multiplying. Do that, tell me what you get. $168. Write that in your equation, y equals 168 over x. And then look at the other order pair. You're given x but not y, so you could put that in and see what your y value would be. Which is what? Negative 7. Just like with direct, you could double check yourself by multiplying negative 24 and negative 7, and that should give us the positive 168. What questions do we have on that process? Let's do 10. So in this one, the first set of order pairs, you're missing a variable, so do the second pair instead. Multiply those, tell me what you get. -63. Write that into your equation. And then look at what's given. So you're given y, and you have to find x. How would we solve for x? What would we get x out of the denominator? Put x on both sides. And then divide both sides by -7. So that x equals what? And if I multiply them back, I should get the same x, k value. A couple more of these and then we'll move on to the word problems. Same as direct, same process, but now it has more words. So let's do 11. Multiply these two, what did you get? 54. Put that in your equation, y equals negative 54 over x. You have to find x when y is 3, so put 3 in. And you could multiply both sides by x like we just did, or if you wanted to, put 1 underneath 3 and cross multiply. It's really the same amount of steps. So whichever you choose to do is up to you. And divide. What is x? Negative 18. If I were to multiply 3 and negative 18, I would get negative 54, so that works. And then 14. Multiply negative 7, negative 8. What do you get? Positive 56. Write that in your equation. Now you're looking for y, you have x. So what would your y value be? What would you get? Questions on how to find the missing variable with inverse? Go on to the next page. We'll do a few word problems, and then we'll be done. I don't have the box online, but I know you do. So it's opposite of what direct was. These either need to, one needs to go up, one needs to go down, or vice versa. So like, what is it that I have earlier? The more time you spend playing games, the less time you have on homework, or vice versa, and things like that. So usually they're opposites. As direct, you'll see something that says varies inversely, inversely proportional, something along those lines. Whatever comes first is still your y value. Whatever comes second is still your x, so that has not changed. So if a train travels between 2 cities in 3 hours, 3 hours is x or y. Y. Making the average speed x. What are we looking for, x or y? Y, because it's talking about how long time. And then again, we have average speed, so x. Multiply 3 and 65 to find your k. Tell me what you get. 195. Here the k value works differently. It's not like some y over x, so we don't have to put words. Put that in your equation. Y equals 195 over x. Look at what you're asked to find. You don't know y, we know x, so put that in. Figure out what y is. What would that be? Put that in your calculator, divide it. 2.5, what? was the x. We're looking for y, which was measured in hours. Questions on how we set that up, solved it, or got the answer? Number 9. What is x? What is y? Cameron. Correct. Right. So width is y, length is x. We are looking for the width, which is again y. Multiply 4 and 18 to find k. How many do you get? Put that in your equation. We are again looking for y, put in x. What's your y value? Should be a whole number. It's fine. For this one, there isn't any measurement, unit of measurement, so you can say 9 units. You can say the width is 9. Questions on that one? Last one, 11. What's your x? What's your y? Y is time, x is temperature. It gives us a time and a temperature. Multiply those, tell me what your k value is. Do we have any questions in general or specifically about direct or inverse variation? Right. For the remainder of class, you can use it to work on Khan Academy or practice in your notes. You do have 5 due today, so if those aren't done, I'd be working on those. If you're done with those, be working on the ones due next week. Use this time wisely. You guys can